Misha Angrist is a writer, and but most important for our purposes, and he's also done a spell as a counselor, a genetic counselor, haven't you?
I was board eligible. I never took the boards.
You were board eligible. You didn't want to be one, or found a higher paying gig, or like writing books. Well, forget about that. I don't care why you didn't want to become a genetic counselor. I'm interested about your daughters. You did this. You're one of the pioneers. You were thinking about, because before I let this go, this question that they want to get rid of, I want to just ask the three of you, because you've all considered this. There's what I would call the Cassandra problem. You learn something about your children, and it can be something that won't even affect your children until they're 50, 60, 70 years old. You're learning something, and of course it's just a possibility. It's not necessarily even a probability. But it's something that the Greeks have taught us maybe you shouldn't know about the far future of your own children. So in your case, what was the situation for you?
Well, it's something that I had contemplated long before I bullied George and David Goldstein into sequencing me, and that is my mother had breast cancer at age 42. She's of Ashkenazic extraction, and I have two daughters. And so, the family history was already somewhat, I don't want to say frightening, but suggestive. That became something to think about when I signed on to the PGP, and the prospect of my genome becoming public was at hand. And my wife and I talked about it, and essentially what we did was we decided that I would be tested for at least the common Ashkenazic mutations in BRCA1 and 2, and once those came back clean, that was the thing that concerned me the most, although George pointed out to me more than once, well, today it's breast cancer, tomorrow it'll be something else.
They did come out clean?
They did.
Were you scared?
I would say scared is too strong a word. There was a little bit of anxiety.
What about the fact that you also see a therapist, and you have sometimes issues about dark spots in your own? Were you wondering about your own clues to your own mental health? Were you worried that people would say, this is a crazy guy, and here's the reason why, X, D, C, C, G, 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 spells crazy?
Well, again, they had been saying that for years. So,
did your daughter? How old is your daughter now?
They're 10 and 7.
Do they know you did this?
Yeah, they know what DNA is. They're very into, and I highly recommend it, anybody with children. They Might Be Giants has an album called Here Comes Science.
Yes, they do.
And there's a song on there about, how the cell works and the spiral staircase of DNA. So they're aware, they're into it. Obviously, they don't appreciate, I think, human heredity in all of its complexity. But
what if it had gone the other way? What if they had learned that they were at risk? Would that have changed everything?
That's an excellent question. I think that's something that my wife and I just said we will deal with that at the time. I think there was...
With what level of enthusiasm did your wife say that?
Well, she said I would like to know this a priori. And I said, of course. And I think we agreed that we didn't want them to find out that they were at risk from the internet. We wanted them to find out from us.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, as the children get older, they're going to be able to understand more about this and what you've done. So in a way, this genome is kind of part of your family now. I mean, you
Yes.
are all going to be living together, and your relationships are all going to be changing. Have you thought about what that's going to be like?
I try not to.
Okay.
Well, I remember having this discussion with Hank Reilly at Stanford, who's thought a lot about all of this stuff for many years. And he said, well, of course you're revealing half of their genomes, but the fact that we don't know which half helps.
How?
How does it help?
How does it help?
Well,
I know, but how does that help?
Well, it's probabilistic, and fortunately, they're getting half of their mother's genome, and we have recombination, and so they will be getting chunks of my DNA unchanged. But again, I think if the science in the post-genome era has taught us anything, it's that the overwhelming majority of this stuff is not powerfully predictive in isolation.
Right. You also wrote, though, that you think that people of Anne, that is the woman right next to you's generation, the Facebook generation, you called it, might just have, at least the early warning system suggests, that they have an easier threshold for privacy. Do you think that's, Anne, do you think that people your age are more comfortable with revealing details about their lives than maybe your parents' generation?
I think they definitely are, if you're referring to, like you said, the Facebook generation, putting up on the web what you're currently doing and letting anyone see it. Yes.
So that it's an equivalence? Like, last night was a blast over at Ralphie's party, and here is my complete sequence and my heart palpitations.
I think we have the common sense not to reveal such confidential information as our entire genome.
No, you just caused a blackout, so there you go. That is being redacted, whatever you just said. And again.
Whoever's leaning on the light switch.
Oh, yeah, might be somebody leaning on the light switch. Anyway, yeah, so you think it's plausible that what's acceptable to talk about and show might change with generations? You don't
It
have to
has a
know.
lot
It has a lot.
already.
How old are you?
17.
Can you describe, you go first, because your dad's, I know your dad's sitting next to you, but like, how did your situation get going? Did he walk into the breakfast room one day and say, here's what we're going to do? Or how did it start in your household?
Well, we were 23andMe genotyped before we were sequenced, so actually...
Boy, how did that happen?
I think he talked to my mom about it first, and we decided that although we're a pretty healthy family, we still want to know about our DNA and about any potential genetic problems we might be carrying.
Who's the we? Did you like wake up one morning and think, gee, I really would like to see the data on me, or was this something that, because I know
It happened after my dad had an embolism, actually. It turns out he has the factor V Leiden mutation, which is very treatable, but you have to know that you have it. So after he got this test, he got thinking, oh, what if we have any other genetic problems? Wouldn't it be nice to know about those so that we don't just sit here waiting for them to happen, but we can actually make some necessary lifestyle changes if we have to and mitigate the situation.
Is your brother Paul of like mind? You have a baby brother or an older brother?
He's currently 15.
Younger brother.
Yes.
Do you have, yeah. Did he and you see eye to eye on this, parents aside?
Yes, we do.
Always?
When it comes to genotyping and sequencing, definitely. Anything else is open, dangerous water.
It brings families together.
So, John, let's see. Is she right? Did it start with your problem and you began to wonder why wait when you could maybe prevent?
Well, this is true in our family, that if there's a problem in our family, it usually starts with me. If there's something good that happens, it's usually my wife that initiates those things. I do want to comment that I think the discussion of risks is fascinating here. Esther says she wants to be shot into space by a Russian rocket and also have her genome sequenced. And you ask her about the risk of having her genome sequenced.
Well, no,
I guess
that's
a
a question. Maybe this
quantitative evaluation here.
Maybe this is a room full of crazy people that is on the risk.
They have an allele for novelty seeking.
Well, I said the connection with mental illness does seem to be striking in this community.
So maybe one thing we should all sort of immediately account for is that most of the world is not like most of this world, and therefore there will be eventually some kind of conversation to be had with the people here and the people everywhere else.
Sure.
But so in your case, since you're a business executive, did you get any I know it's the same. I guess you work at the same company those other two guys work at. Are you an Illumina
Well,
guy?
I've been involved in this. I was the CEO of Solexa, which was sold to Illumina and produced the technology that's now used for the sequencing.
So it's like so this is an Illumina Uber alles kind of gathering.
Yeah, but I've been involved in automating sequencing. I first was taught about sequencing by George Church when he was a graduate student 28 years ago. So I've been sort of involved in this area for quite some time.
So did you get any did questions from outside your family? Did you get any business questions called "You sure? Do you want to?" Blah blah blah.
I get questions like, "Gee, could I do that too? When's the price going to come down? Gee, that's cool. Are you going public?" I run a stem cell company, and we're having some of the stem cell lines sequenced now. They're human embryonic stem cells. So I think people see it as being a remarkably powerful tool, that it's amazing that it's even possible, and they want to know, what can you see? What's there? What are we finding out? And
So you haven't had you're not under pressure from people to. What about the fact that nobody in your family except for you was sick? So you're crossing a line here as a family. You are making a very expensive bet that you'll learn something worth the money, and none of you are sick yet. So in a way, you're healthy people doing a diagnostic that for up to now has been mostly for sick people.
Well, I think that's one of the key things that's going to be changing is that 6 or 7 years ago, I had a pulmonary embolism because I have a mutation in my DNA, and nobody had done a genetic test on me. So if they had, they probably could have said, you need to look out for certain things. And in fact, I probably could have changed very simple aspects of behavior in terms of drinking a lot of water when I take long international flights and things like that. And I probably could have ended up not being in the hospital if somebody had done that. So I think people talk about the risks of what might happen if you are sequenced. But what I found out and personally lived through is there are risks if you haven't been sequenced, because there are things that you might find out about where you could take simple actions to change your lifestyle that actually might prevent these problems. And I've personally lived through that. So part of what we didn't go through family sequencing to explore that, because frankly we already knew about this particular mutation, but it does raise the question of what risk are you taking if you're not sequenced, where the information might be sitting there just available to be had, and you just chose to not look at it yet. So I think right now you say it's very expensive, and that's true, that's part of pioneering, but I think in a few years it's going to be dramatically less expensive, and the cost issue will mostly go away, and the question will be, why would you not look and find out this information, which might actually be very medically actionable? In our family, it is medically actionable today.
So has your family taken action since having your genome sequenced? Has something come out of it that's made you say, sorry guys, no frosted flakes this morning, or whatever? Has anything changed?
I think minor things. To be honest, one of the things that we're working with is that the data is very complicated, and so I think Anne's going to talk this afternoon about some of the things that we've found out. I'm not going to jump ahead of that, but I think mostly what we found out is that analyzing the data by hand using biotechnology tools like Microsoft Excel, with all due respect to Microsoft being here, that you know there could be some things that are better. And so I think the issue is really the sequencing is getting to be and will be very cheap. The question is, what does it take to be able to analyze it and read the medical information? And I think there are some companies who are here. We hope to go shopping and buy several of your services, but we'd be interested in saying, who can help us figure out what this means? You know, we got 3 terabytes of data, and so far we've only, you know, after several months of work, we have analysis of, you know, 1 or 2 genes. So, you know, at that rate, I'll be very old by the time we get it figured out. We need an improvement on the computer technology.
I have one just household question for you guys. Like, did you publish her data yet, or are you planning to?
No.
I'm not planning to publish it at least until after I'm 21, but probably not until much later.
And did anyone publish your mom's data?
No, she decided not to publish it since my brother and I are keeping ours private, and she didn't want anyone to be able to infer anything that she would rather keep strictly confidential about my brother and about me from her data and from my dad's. So currently, my dad is the only one who's going public.
And you know what you could do though is you could look at your dad's data, and then sort of you could see your mother in silhouette inside. I mean, it's half and half, right? No.
Maybe not.
Not
You're the
quite
smart
right.
one. I have to figure you next.
Yeah.
Every time you go, I know that.
It doesn't work that way.
Back to genetics 101.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
What I think is Skip in the house yet? Skip Gates? Not yet.
No, I don't see him.
So maybe we should we go to questions and answers? Do you think? I don't know how we do. What's the time situation?
Well, it's 5 to 10 now, and we have a coffee break at 10:15. So
We could go. So maybe we could. You want to go to do price then? Shall we talk?
yeah,
price
we've been
after?
talking about falling prices. So
Yeah.
why don't we
Okay.
move
You
on?
guys go away now.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you.